When I was a child growing up in Missouri, my Missouri mother would occasionally tell me that my damn Yankee father was coming down from the north just to tell her what to do. And it was kind of a joke in the family. and that was 100 years after Reconstruction. And Missouri was further north than Louisiana. But in Louisiana, in the 1870s, the joke of Yankees coming down and telling Southerners what to do was not a joke. There was a huge problem that was unfolding with who was allowed to vote and how they were allowed to vote and who would be leadership in the rebuilding after the Civil War South. In 1872, a guy named William Pitt Kellogg was elected as the governor of Louisiana. He was elected by the popular vote. He was a Republican from Vermont, and that did not go over too well with the people in Louisiana. There were a whole bunch of individual kind of upsets about this. The biggest one being the Colfax Massacre that occurred on April 13th of 1872. The Colfax Massacre involved him sending in a sheriff and a judge for the position, and them going to the courthouse and very quickly being surrounded by black men who were supporting them in this role. But it wasn't enough. And over the next couple of weeks, tensions got higher and higher and higher. People who weren't even part of that community, white people who were angry about this Yankees coming down and telling them what to do, angry that a Republican governor had been put in, came and circled the courthouse where they were holed up. At this point, there's about 150 probably black men in there with basically two white, the judge, the sheriff. There may have been another handful of white men in there. On April 5th, a local resident named Jesse McKinney is killed. He's a black farmer, and he is killed at his farm in front of his wife and their 6-year-old. And then at that point, all of the women and children of the men who were in the courthouse left their homes and came and camped out at the courthouse. There was like a trench dug around the courthouse to try to protect them. They're like all holed up with this idea that like these are their democratically elected people that are going to protect them. Ultimately, if they protect them, they'll protect, And on April 13th, the crowd of white folks, this is about half Confederate soldier veterans, soldiers and officers, they find a cannon. Their anxiety level is going up and up and up, tension's going up. They eventually tell the women and children, you have 30 minutes to pack up and get out of here. In 30 minutes, everything's going to break loose. And they did, in fact. At noon, they fired on the courthouse. There was quite a bit of immediate casualty. And then in the aftermath, they had between 50 and 60 prisoners left, all black men. They had these prisoners gathered up, and then that evening, they took them down to the river in twos. And there was only one survivor of the evening. His name is Levi Nelson. He testified after the fact that when he was shot, he pretended to, he laid very, very still and didn't move until everything else was done. And then he crawled away in the night into the woods, and he went back to his house, and he made it out. He was the only one that survived the prisoner group of that evening. And it went to the Supreme Court because this is obvious voter suppression and intimidation, and the Enforcement Act and all the rest have been passed. And the Supreme Court used the Colfax Massacre to say, actually, what happens on the state level is the state's business. And if that's how Louisiana runs its democracy, that's how Louisiana runs its democracy. Which is why we saw this Jim Crow sort of era where there wasn't even really a struggle for voting rights for almost 100 years again, because the Supreme Court had said that is a reasonable response. And if that's a reasonable response, then everybody knew that the path to anything happening was not showing up and voting, and it wasn't trying to support the people who were properly elected until a long enough time had passed that they tried again with all of the Civil Rights Act stuff. So yeah, that's the Colfax Massacre. Let me know if you want more about Jesse Nelson or Jesse McKinney or Levi Nelson or any of these other details. If you have questions, I have sources.